Welcome back. During this video, I'm going to teach you 5 powerful closing techniques. These techniques are the secondary close, the alternative close, the preference close, the assumption close, and the takeaway close. The secondary close is one of the most popular closing techniques of all times. You use it to close on a minor point in the transaction. Sometimes it's even called the minor point or minor question close. For example, imagine you're selling a car and you say, by the way, would you want the Michelin or racing tires or the factory tires with this car when you purchase it? It doesn't really matter to you which one he chooses. In either case, he's decided to buy the car. Let us say that you are selling a house. You ask, by the way, would you want to take possession on the 1st or 15th of the month? Whichever date they select, they've made the decision to buy the house. In other words, you close on a minor question rather than on the entire purchase decision. It's much easier for a prospect to make a decision on a minor point than on the whole offer. You can always find a minor point to close on. You can say, well, that be cash or charge. Even before the prospect has decided whether she wants to buy, well, I'll pay cash. They've made the buying decision. How they pay for it is a minor issue. Now next is the alternative close, which is based on this rule. Never offer a prospect the choice between something and nothing. Always make it a choice between one of 2 items. Offer him a choice between product A or product B. Which house do you like best? This one or that one? Which car do you prefer, the 2-door or the 4-door? Which type of tires do you want, the radial or the standard? Always give them at least 2 choices. A good prospect will answer you and say, well, I like product A better, or I like product B better. Or they might say, I don't like either product. You can then ask why. This gives you an opportunity to continue selling, but don't ever ask, do you want this or not? The preference close is a technique in which you always ask, which do you prefer? Asking people which they prefer is a good way of finding out where you are in the sales presentation. This is another version of the alternative close, and it's very helpful in getting a buying response from a prospect. The next technique is called the assumption close, and it's also referred to as the talking past the sale close. You simply assume that the person has decided to buy. You talk exactly as if he has just said, yes, I'll take it. You assume the sale and ask something like, how would you like to make payment? Or where would you want this delivered? Or how soon do you need it? For example, imagine that you have just finished your presentation. You ask, well, who's going to handle the mortgage arrangements for this? Even before the prospect says, yes, I'll take it, you ask, who will handle the mortgage arrangements? You assume that he has decided to buy. You talk past the sale, and you go on to wrap up the details. This assumption close is one of the most powerful closes you can learn. It only takes a little practice to master. The last technique I'll cover today is called the takeaway close. With the takeaway close, even before the prospect says yes or no, you begin to suggest that the product may not be available. You might be out of stock. Sometimes people are not even aware that they want the item until you suggest that they may not be able to get it. One example of the takeaway close is the situation where you finish the sales presentation and the prospect has not yet made a decision. You've answered all their objections. He starts saying something like, well, it seems kind of expensive. I don't know if we can afford it right now. You say, excuse me for a moment. We were talking about the blue one, weren't we? We've really had a run on the blue ones lately. They're very popular. Let me call the office or the warehouse and just make sure we have them still in stock. May I use your telephone? The prospect suddenly becomes aware that he might not be able to get it at all. He says, yes, you can use my telephone. At that moment, he's made the decision to buy. You can then phone, confirm availability, and then hang up and say, you're in luck. There's only one left, and I reserved it for you. Many people don't realize how badly they want something until you suggest to them that they can't have it. Remember when we were teenagers, we called this playing hard to get. You didn't even know that you were interested in that boy or girl until he or she began playing this game with you. They use this technique in stores all the time. You're looking at an item and the salesperson says, "Do you like that?" And you say, "Yeah, it looks all right." The salesperson immediately says something like, "Well, let me make sure that we have it in your size. I'll go and check." You say, "Yes, make sure you have it in my size." You've just decided to buy it. The salesperson returns and says, "Yes, we do have it in your size, just one. You're in luck." And suddenly you want it before someone else gets it. This is a closing technique that they use in women's stores. They use it in all different situations. Here's another example you are familiar with. A woman is trying on something in a store. It's expensive. This technique is never used with anything cheap. When someone is trying on something that's expensive, the sales clerks have an invisible signal. They wave their hands or ring a bell or something. It causes all the other sales clerks to come running over. You're trying on something that's ridiculously expensive, and they all rush up and say, "Oh, that looks really good on you, doesn't it?" All the sales clerks cluster around like hens. They cluck and they say, "Well, yes, that really looks good on you. Oh, yes, that looks good on you." And you say, "Really? You really think so?" And they say, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." As soon as you say, "Well, okay," they break up and rush back to their customers. Meanwhile, you've bought the item. My wife has come home with the funniest looking outfits as a result of being closed like this. But she wants to try it on for me because she's not quite sure if she's made the right choice. She's not quite sure why she bought it at all. She comes in and she says, "Be perfectly honest with me," and I'll say, "I don't really think it suits you." And she will say, "But everybody in the store said it looked really great on me, and there was only one left in my size." Be very alert to this technique being used on you or on someone you know. All 5 of the techniques I've just covered are extremely powerful. In the next video, I'll cover 3 more powerful closing techniques.